Good morning, friends. Today I'm coming to you with a quiet kettle chat. I have my cup of coffee here. It's just hot water and instant coffee crystals. Then I put some local honey in there and this really nice coconut milk powder that I found at Grocery Outlet, and I've really been loving that. It's shelf stable, and I'm not wasting half a can of coconut milk when I don't go through it fast enough buying a can. Plus, it only has 2 ingredients in it compared to a lot of the coconut milks in a can or in those like the cartons that have gums and fillers and a bunch of ingredients that I just don't want to be consuming. So it's nice and sweet and creamy and frothy and warm. I really don't drink a lot of coffee, and actually I only very recently started drinking coffee a little bit more regularly, and the main reasons for that is because it's warm and I like the taste of it. I used to drink black coffee a little bit, like I didn't mind it, but now I like it with the sweet honey and a little bit of a creamy, something added to it. So I like the coconut milk and I like the flavor that it adds to it. But also it helps with digestion a little bit for me. So yeah, I don't mind it. But when I do drink coffee, I'm always making sure that I'm drinking lots and lots of water throughout the day, because it can be a bit dehydrating. And yeah, I really try to pair my coffee with drinking lots of extra water throughout the day. Cheers. So one part is already out of the way. If you're new here, hi, welcome. I'm Alexis. In these Quiet Kettle Chat videos, I'm sharing what's in my cup, what I'm drinking. I'm waking up early in the morning, not doing anything to get ready for this video. You see how my bed head looks with my braids going here. I put on a sweatshirt because I'm, want to be cozy. And I share 3 insights or tips or points on some certain topic. So today's video, as you probably gathered from the title and the thumbnail, I'm going to cover 3 tips for wives to help you improve your marriage. And if you're not married yet, but you want to improve your relationship with your significant other, I think that these would help you too. So I hope that you'll stick around and watch through to the end of this video. And before I get into those 3 tips, I would like to invite you to subscribe to this channel, check out some of my other videos. I've been wanting to get on YouTube for a long time now. I've gone back and forth posting random videos over the years, but never was very consistent. But that's something I'm really trying to take seriously, and posting weekly or twice weekly videos, just to share what's on my mind, share what I think works well for me and my family and my marriage and my lifestyle, in hopes of inspiring you, motivating you, and helping you with some positivity and encouragement and sometimes hard truths. So yeah, I hope you'll subscribe. And every video that I have, I'm not trying to promote things and sponsor things. I just don't roll like that. But if you're interested in some of my favorite products, and I make free like printables all the time, I invite you to check out the link in the description. It's my link tree, so you can go to linktr.ee /curatingsimple, and there you'll find all kinds of products and links to things that I use currently, that I love, things that I've used in the past that I loved using, and yeah, just like products and things that are really tried and true for me and that I use all the time and recommend to people in person, and that I've helped people using them in more of a like professional kind of setting. And yeah, I hope you'll check it out. I hope you'll find something there that serves you. And even if you didn't use any of those links and you just wanted to get some ideas, if it's helping you, that's what I care about. I don't necessarily care about making money off of it, although that is a nice added bonus when somebody does use some of my affiliate links. But yeah, I just care about you, and I care about sharing good things with people. So be sure to check out those things. And with all that out of the way, let's get into these 3 tips for wives to help you improve your marriage, or for women in improving your relationship. So tip number 1 is to learn and harness the love languages. This is not some like trend bandwagon thing that I'm trying to hop on. I know that the love languages have been kind of a trendy thing for a long time, or they can tend to be trendy a little bit, but I've known about them for several years. And oftentimes when my husband and I have been like, when we've had like tension building between us, or we find that we're not like communicating well with each other, or we're disagreeing a lot, or we're just bickering or arguing, which is something that we've gotten pretty good at, not arguing and bickering over the years, and especially in front of other people. Like we tend to just, we keep that for private. That's something that if we are noticing that, then oftentimes I come back to the love languages, because essentially what the love languages are, if you're not familiar, is like everybody has a love tank. And so there's these different kinds of ways that people give and receive love, and that fills up their love tank. So when we're not loving people the way that they feel loved and the way that it fills them up, like they're running on basically an empty tank. And so it's hard for them to show up well in a relationship with you when they don't feel like you're seeing them, you're hearing them, you're loving them the way that they feel loved. So they're kind of like, why am I showing up in this relationship if it's feeling one-sided? Even though you might be doing what you know to do, is like showing and expressing love towards them. They just might not be like fully receiving that, because everyone's wired differently. Everybody has different like inclinations and needs. So coming back to the love languages, there's 5, I believe. So there's quality time, touch, words of affirmation, gifts, and what's that other one? Quality time, touch, words of affirmation, gifts, and oh my gosh, I should know this, and I should have had this ready beforehand. Hold on, I'm gonna let this process for a second, because it's right on the tip of my tongue, and I'm just skipping it here. Acts of service. I had to think, because I'm like, what are mine? Let's see what mine are. And that might tell me. So quality time, touch, words of affirmation, gifts, and acts of service. Okay, there we go. Sorry that took me a second. I just had to let that brew for a moment. It tastes so good, but the water is so fresh. I'm gonna just do both. So I got water in my cup, my other cup today. Oh, the water hits. It's a little different than the coffee. Okay, so those are the love languages. Clearly, it's early. And yeah, we tend to come back to these. And it works. Like it makes such a difference, I'll say. So my top 2 love languages, the ones that primarily like fill up my love tank, I would say are acts of service and quality time. And this can kind of take like different shapes and forms. I think particularly quality time, because quality time, yes, I like to be in the same space with people and feeling like there's this like mutual giving to the relationship. And even if that means quality time apart. So if I'm like constantly with my husband and we're just kind of like hanging out, we're just watching movies, which I feel like we watch movies a lot in the evening times, or shows, or like, you know, our favorite YouTube channels and things like that with our like, you know, our kids and stuff. Sometimes like if we do too much of that, it's like, yeah, we're in the same space together, but we're not like exchanging ideas. We're not like having that quality like interaction and giving between each other. We're just kind of like hanging out in the same area together. So that oftentimes doesn't like fill me up the way, you know, my husband might think like, we're spending so much time together in the evenings when I'm home. Why is that not enough? And so for me, that like quality time is if we're not like having those moments together where it's like a bond and we're interacting and we're giving to each other and we're reflecting and we're, you know, we're envisioning our future and things like that, like I can tend to feel like just not filled up. But then also quality time alone. So me having time to just take care of myself or like focus for 30 minutes straight with no interruptions on some sort of task or something that I'm interested in doing. Like if I don't have that, then it starts to feel really draining for me. And so I think knowing your own love languages is really, really invaluable, and knowing your partner's. So mine are quality time and acts of service, and my husband's are physical touch and words of affirmation. So knowing what his are, I can reflect on our interactions with each other and ask myself, like, have I carried out like his love languages? Have I shown him love in the way that he receives it best? Truth is, a lot of times it's off my radar. And so with my husband, mine tend to be off of his radar a lot of times. So when we start to have those, like that tension and our lack of communication is like bubbling up to the surface, and we have things we want to talk about, and we have this like kind of tension and frustration, it really kind of, sorry, I wanted to clean that and see if it would make a difference, or if it's just low light in here. We kind of we come back to these love languages. And so once we start focusing again on those, like sometimes we just need that reminder, and it takes that building of tension and those like frustrations that we are keeping to ourselves because we feel like that line of communication isn't open. Once that bubbles to the surface, we can just like think clearly again, and then we're like, okay, like let's put the other person's love and love languages first. Like let's prioritize doing those things, because then the communication starts flowing better. Okay, so that's tip number 1. You can dig into that as much as you want, but I highly recommend knowing your love languages, knowing your husband's love languages, and doing them. Like prioritize doing them. And sometimes it feels like, gosh, like I don't want to be doing this. But then once you do it, you're like, I feel so much better because I know that they feel good, they feel loved, and like I did my part, even though it's like not how I give the love, right? But just knowing that like your partner feels loved because you put them first, like you actually were putting their needs first, that goes a long way. Okay. Sorry. I feel like I got something in my eye somehow. Okay. A little better? A little better. Not a little better. I'm going to try to get through that. Okay. And tip number 2 for wives on how to improve your marriage and for women to improve your relationship with your significant other is to choose your words carefully. Sit on that for a second. Choose your words carefully. This is one thing that I definitely have to keep in mind, especially because my husband's love language, one of them is words of affirmation. So saying positive words to him like really fills up the love tank, and saying negative things to him really just depletes him quickly, easily, and it hurts. So choosing my words carefully is like especially a big thing between my husband and I, but I think more women need to choose their words carefully. And I'm gonna say it like this. For one, we talk way too much. Some men, they can deal with that. Some men, they're wired to where it's not some like you just dumped all your hot garbage on them. Like they can, sometimes more words for certain men is better, depending on kind of how their brain works. My guy, he is a manly man. Like he is a very masculine man, and he's a dude. Like he is a dude. He works with dudes, like manly dudes at work. He works at a quarry, and everyone has this like the testosterone is just like crazy, right? So like everyone is just a manly man at his work. And so when he's with the guys all day long, like it's man. It's like a whole bunch of man stuff, right? And then when he comes home, it's like instant switch, a whole bunch of woman stuff, right? And we have 2 daughters, so it's a bunch of girly stuff, and they're, you know, tomboyish and tough, and they wrestle and whatever. But choose your words carefully. So for one, we talk way too much. Men and children, when you start going like this, they stop listening to you. It's just how it goes. And there are so many times when I just have to remind myself, bite your tongue. He does not need the inside scoop, the every last detail, the information overload, spillage, and especially not the moment he walks in the door from work. Am I perfect at this? Am I perfect at any of these tips? No. I'll be the first to say, nope, I am not a perfect wife. I do not have this down, right? But the fact, like if you can reflect on your own actions and the interactions between you and your husband, you can figure out those key points. And I hope that these 3 insights will help you identify a few of those really big key points in what you need to work on as a wife, as a partner. And so if you can reflect, like this is essential. Making changes on yourself improves your relationship, improves your marriage. So saying less, right? And the other part of this, choosing your words carefully, is you need to build up your husband with your words. Some people, some women especially, I think, in particular, would say like, men just have big egos. They just want like their ego, they're so prideful. Like I shouldn't have to do what, no. Your husband's a man and you are a woman for a reason. You are different. The fundamental ways in which you carry out your duties in your partnership are different. You are wired, you are built, you are constructed differently from your husband. And I think for the most part, across the board, like men have very different needs from women. And yes, men should have their feminine side a little bit. They need to take care of themselves. They need to, I don't know. There are instances and scenarios and situations where they need to be on the softer side, things like that. And there are times when women need to be tough and strong and like defensive and, do hard things that men do, right? There's a time and a place for that. But in your marriage and your relationship overall, you have to understand that your husband is very different from you. He has his roles. He has his responsibilities. If you are a stay-at-home mom, your work is very different from your husband's. The way that looks, it's different if you've got all daughters, all sons, a mix of both. How you kind of carry out those mothering and parenting roles is unique. And the way that your husband parents and interacts with their children, your children, is going to be different from the way that you do. So choosing your words carefully. And this really comes into play also when you are interacting with your children. The Bible gives us an illustration of, we'll say headship, right? Of the order in the home. So there's God, there's Jesus, there's men or husbands, and there's women and wives, and there's children, there's animals, right? Like, so even if you don't have a converted and faithful Christian husband, that does not matter. If you are a Christian woman, and even if you're not, I encourage you to take wisdom from the Bible. Treat your husband like he's your husband. So sometimes that means just saying nothing. Think carefully, decide what's important to communicate to your husband, but also build him up. You are not the husband. You don't wear the pants, they say, right? You are not the man of the house. You are the woman of the house. My husband's friends give him crap all the time that, oh, Lex is the man of the house because I use power tools and I get stuff done at home and I'm productive with my time. I do not think that way. Like it actually irritates me a little bit that they, not that they joke that way, but I'm like, do not insult me. Like actually, like I'm not the man of the house. My husband's the man of the house. I'm the woman of the house. I'm doing womanly wife, mother roles. Like I'm carrying out those duties. So know the difference, right? You are not the man of the house. And you have duties to fulfill as the wife, as the woman, as the mother. So knowing what those are, understanding your place in the order of things, and there's a reason for that. And our pride and our ego as wives and women oftentimes we are trying to climb that ladder over men, over our husband. Don't do that. Like, that is just a recipe for disaster, especially in your marriage. I'm gonna let you just dive into that, like soak that in, reflect on some of that, and just dive into that. Okay, and I kind of touched on this third one. Well, let's see. I wanted to have this third point. My initial thought was to say, be productive at home and get stuff done. And I sort of just touched on that a little bit. Like, I'm doing that every day. Like, productivity and doing things that are good, doing things that are beneficial for our home, our family, our pets, our community, our friend circles, our church. Like, I am always in go mode, and not always in go mode, like I can't not do something, but I'm always trying to be productive. But that is not going to be the third tip. The third tip for wives to help you improve your marriage is actually this. Even if you're not a Christian, you don't even have to be a Christian. But if you are, great. And you've probably done this to some extent. Open up your Bible to Proverbs 31. Just open it up. And I think, in essence, Proverbs 31, which is about a virtuous wife, it encapsulates what it means to be productive as a woman, as a mother, as a wife. What are some things that we need to be focused on? What are some things that help us to do that help us to do the things we need to be doing? What are the things we need to be doing? So I'm not gonna read the whole thing because I would like you to read the whole thing, but I'm gonna point out a couple key lines right now. And here's the thing. I don't want you to just turn to this and read it. Come back to this time and time again, all the time. When you are frustrated with your husband, when you're in an argument, when there's something so bad that you want to point out that's irritating you that they do or whatever, come back to this and just let it brew, let it steep, and focus on working on yourself. Okay, so by studying this and reflecting on this chapter here, it's almost a whole chapter. By doing that, you will find yourself more productive in your daily routine, in your life, in your home, in your parenting, in your marriage. So tip number 3 is not necessarily to be productive, because that could be a whole bunch of things. You're going to be productive by studying this. Get that baby. We're back. Okay, So just a few like key verses I'm going to read from here. Who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. A virtuous wife. What are your values? What are those priorities you have? What are those things that you're working on in yourself? What are those things that keep you going? What are those morals and those standards that you stand by? If you don't know, perhaps try looking in the Bible. Find something in this, passage here of Proverbs 31 from verses 10 to 31. Study that. See if that doesn't inspire you with some values. Like what are they? What are they? So who can find a virtuous wife? Have virtues, have values, live, I want to say above reproach. We're always going to have things that we need to work on, that things that people can point out to us that, character flaws and whatnot. But if you're already focused on working on yourself, identifying those and correcting them, that it's going to go a long way in all your relationships, but especially in your marriage. So, okay, let's see. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. When your husband's at work all day, he should not have to wonder what you're doing. He should not have to wonder what you're doing. He should know, like, you're at home holding down the fort, raising those kids, teaching them, yes, taking care of and maintaining your home to the best of your ability, and just being productive and being faithful, being honest and true, doing what's good. So his heart can safely trust you. Okay. Let's see. She girds herself with strength and strengthens her arms. I'm carrying this baby around all day long, guys. She's heavy. She's heavy. Sometimes she's in the carrier on my back, a lot of times, because there's things that need to get done. Yeah, you help mommy do a lot of things, don't you? Put yourself to work. Make your home's management, make raising your children, that is your work. If you're a stay-at-home mom, that's the most important work you'll ever do, is raising your little ones, raising your kids, teaching them those values, those morals, those virtues, holding them accountable, because you're holding yourself accountable first. And just doing things, girding yourself with strength. Where do you get that strength from? Your values, if you're a Christian, from Christ and the Word. Okay, let's see. She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household is clothed with scarlet. Think ahead. Be someone who thinks ahead. You don't need to overthink. You don't need to be anxious. You don't need to be fearful. But think ahead. Like, have a look around you. Figure out what's going on right now that needs to be done. Prioritize, taken care of, be prepared for what's going on, right around you, physically and immediate needs and kind of the immediate future, right? Have a plan in place for the week. What are you going to get done? But also, like, look around you and see, like, what's going on, and do productive things to put your family in a position where you are going to be taken care of. Spend your time, your effort, your energy, your money on things that are good for you now, but also things that are going to be essential in the future. I'm going to let you figure out what that is for you. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. This kind of goes back to tip number 2 of choose your words carefully. Like, speak with intention and don't spill everything that's on your mind all the time. There's a time and a place for that. And on her tongue is the law of kindness. Kindness isn't always a pleasant thing to hear. Truth, telling people the truth, is the kindest thing that you can do. So sometimes your law of kindness stings a little bit, but it's always better to like be honest than to like put a bunch of fluff on things, or to bite your tongue when really you should be addressing something. And maybe that's with your kids, maybe it's with your husband. You know, speak tactfully. Maybe it's extended family members, relatives, or friends, or neighbors. Like, the law of kindness doesn't necessarily mean you just let people walk all over you, or just get away with being disrespectful, or, and I say get away with, but like not addressing them. Certain situations, like the law of kindness is, yes, we should be poised and tactful and respectful and kind and patient, and not just like yada 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 talking all the time, but honest and truthful. And sometimes the truth is not well received by people, but think about that. I love this one. I feel like it encapsulates me so well. She watches over the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Observe what goes on in your household. Be close to your children. You don't need to hover and helicopter. People can't make good choices if they're not allowed to make choices. And that's adults and children alike. So yes, teach your children what it is that you expect of them. Give them some freedom and time to make choices. Help them to reflect on their choices and do differently when it's maybe not the wisest choice. Also, same thing with our husbands. So easy to just nitpick everything that they do and complain that they're doing it all wrong. Let them learn from their mistakes. Focus on yourself, focus on bettering yourself and improving yourself, and they will start to get the point a little bit. They will experience the repercussions, positive or negative, of their actions and their choices. Okay. And does not eat the bread of idleness. Like, just ask yourself, what am I doing all day, every day? Like, what is it leading to? Is it productive for the moment? Is it frivolous? Am I worrying too much? Am I being, helicopter parent? Am I being a helicopter wife to my husband? Be productive. Use your hands to do things. Work hard, right? And allow there to be a division of the roles. I think of a book I read a long time ago, and I I've been meaning to try and find it online to see what it was called. And I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm very terrible about buying a book, reading the book, loving the book, and then I get rid of the book, which, I don't know. There's pros and cons to hanging on to stuff, but sometimes I wish I would have kept that thing, that book. But basically it was about, I think some like tribe in Africa that was kind of being like studied, and they were observing like what are the cultural roles here and between women and men. So the men, for the most part, the entire day was spent with other men. They were out hunting, they were out doing hard, tough, manly things that I don't want to say only men can do, but that suits their capabilities better. And the women were all together, and the little children too. As boys got older, they were going out with the men and doing hunting and protecting and things like that, and other things. It's been a long time since I read this book, but the women, like, they were cooking, they were cleaning, they were feeding their babies, they were talking together, right? So if you feel like you don't have that woman circle, that vibe, like tribe, that village of women, find one, make one. You need that. Like, that's really important, so that you don't take all your woman stuff and try to dump it on your husband when he walks in the door after work each day. Find that. Create that for yourself. And then even at the end of the day, like when all the duties were done, the men had their campfire, the women had their campfire, and they very rarely like mingled and mixed, and like there was such a clear division of the roles, right? These days, all those lines, everyone's trying to blur the lines, and it's leading to chaos, really. I'm not even gonna go there. There's a reason that the roles are different. There's a reason there's distinctions, right? But the thing is, like, having that division and that clarity between the roles wasn't detrimental to the community, the tribe as a whole. Like, the women understood, these are the things that we do. We clean, we prepare the food, you know, that our husbands went out and killed and brought home for us and prepared, and like, we're doing that. Like, they're out there bringing in the things that we are meant to work on. And we maintain kind of like this, the function of all the other things that need to be taken care of. Helping the little ones go to the bathroom and cleaning up spills and taking care of people who are sick. Let there be like a division of roles. And I was reminded of this recently when we were watching The Outdoor Boys, and they went to, was it the Malawi? I can't remember. I think that's how you'd say it. But anyways, he was recording his trip to Tanzania, I think it was. And you know, he went with the men and the, you know, the teen boys and stuff to go out and hunt. Like, they're chasing wild animals through like the brush and like all this stuff. And they come back and the women are gathered up, the little children are with them. And he goes, he said, I keep wanting to go over, and I've gone over a couple times because I want to get some footage on like, what are the women doing over here? Like, what is their culture like over here? you know, aside from what the men are doing here. And he goes, every time I went over there, I felt like I was walking into the women's restroom, and I just felt like, yeah, I'm not supposed to be over here. And there's that like respect, that boundary between men's roles, women's roles. And I think modern women and wives, like we have to just remember that we are different. There are different expectations on us. There are different duties that only we are capable of carrying out. Breastfeeding our babies, carrying them, birthing them, and not even that, but like we have a different emotional and physical nature that, and the way that our mind works too, we're just different. We are different. So this Quiet Kettle Chat is getting a little bit long. Oh, sleepy baby. Let's see. I'm going to close it with the last verse in this chapter, Proverbs 31:31. And it reads, "Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates." So your fruit, yes, it can just kind of grow on its own, right? But if you have a garden, if you have a fruit tree, like you care for that thing, you tend to it, you maintain it, you manipulate its environment, its mini ecosystem, its atmosphere, right? So that it will maximize the yield and the harvest and be beneficial to you to the utmost. Let her own works praise her in the gates. I think of the part in the Bible that basically says, like, when you show up to a party, you don't go and sit in the highest seat. And then somebody's like, hey, you don't belong here. And they like send you back down to the lower classes of the party, right? Like when you show up down in the lower level. Just show up in a humble position. And then when somebody realizes that you're in the wrong place, they'll say, hey, you are meant to be up in this higher level or class of the party, right? Like come up here and sit with the person that this party is for, right? You don't need to be on the outskirts of the party leaning up against the wall. Like we want you to be here right next to the person we're celebrating, right next to that king or that, you know, that person of royalty. Like we want you to be higher up in here. So don't puff yourself up. Don't put yourself in a position that you're not meant to be in. Let your praise come from your husband. Let your praise come from the good things God is giving you. Let your praise come from God. Let other people recognize that you are doing things well. There's something you're doing right. But you're not out here just like, I'm doing it great. I've got it figured out. None of us have it figured out. We should always be trying to figure it out. But even when we think we figured it out, there's so much more to learn. So just keep yourself in a humble position and point your finger back to yourself and remember that if you're not working on yourself first, you cannot expect your husband or your children or anybody in your life, anybody in any of your relationships to change or improve or value your opinion or respect you if you're not staying humble and you're not focused on improving yourself. So again, like all of these things are things that I am constantly working on because I'm not perfect in any of them. But when I take the time to reflect on these 3 different points and make actual changes in my habits, in my routine, in my lifestyle to accommodate for the things that I'm lacking in or that I'm not doing well enough at. Like, that's when your marriage improves. That's when your relationship improves. So I hope this long chat was inspiring, insightful, motivating, maybe a little bit humbling. We all need a little bit of humbling sometimes, myself included. And ooh, baby, do I get a healthy dose of that from my husband very often, because I'm in the same boat as so many women and wives. And you know, I've been raised by secular parents, and in a sinful world, I've had the wrong priorities much of my life. And so trying to honor God and glorify God and walk the way he wants me to is not easy. It's not always clear. So sometimes I need that rocking a little bit of like, girl, you don't even understand. Like, you don't even understand what I go through every day. You know, hearing that from my husband, like, you can't even begin to know the half of it. And the truth is, we're not in anyone else's shoes. We can't be in someone else's shoes. We can only try to see things from their perspective and understand them better and meet their needs better, because we want to in our relationship and in our marriage. So yeah, I just hope that this video is a little bit helpful, and I hope you'll drop some comments, because I love hearing from you. And if you have questions, like, I want to answer them to the best I can and share what I know and what I've learned. But yeah, I needed a video that was going to be ready for Thursday. Here it is. That's it. I'm going to sign off now. You'll see me in the next video. Until then, I hope you'll all take care. Oh, she smells so good. Bye, guys. Girls, see you later.